but we see their faithfulness there even in 2 Chronicles 20. And so that discussion just took me on a deep dive this week, and I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and I did not, the first mention of Korah last Sunday, was not familiar with the context. And so studying this week, I'm glad to make all those connections, and I assume that you would like to make those connections as well. And so let's go now back to Joshua chapter 7, and we'll pick up our study, and that didn't take too long. And so Joshua chapter 7, here's where I would like to put the pin in it, unless you have another comment or thought or suggestion. You're more than welcome. But I'm going to sum it up, at least my thoughts, the way that I have a series of commentaries, and I don't always rely on commentaries. I understand how to balance your study and what other people suggest. But I have a series of commentaries in my office from Kaufman. Last name is Kaufman. You're probably familiar with Kaufman. He's well known. And I think he summarized it the best in Joshua chapter 7 with Achan. There is some language that Kaufman suggests when we read it. It seems like his household might have died with him, but there's not enough there for us to be 100% sure either way. There's some verses where it sounds like it, but then there's some other things that would, if they were innocent, contradicts other verses. And so I agree with Kaufman. There's perhaps not enough, with Achan at least, in Joshua 7, to know either way. I do think that in the latter part of Joshua 7, verses 25, when they stoned him, and then it says they burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones, very well could equally be a reference to his livestock and what he owned, and not necessarily his family. So that brings us to Joshua chapter 8, and we'll see how things turn around for Joshua and for Israel as they were defeated with their first attempt to capture Ai. And remember in Joshua 7, when Israel looked at Ai, the people in Ai, they were like, hey, there's not a whole lot of them there. We have this in the bag. And they counted their chickens before they hatched, or they were lifted up with pride, perhaps, and they were defeated. But in Joshua chapter 8, things turn around. Now, this time, Joshua, with the help of Joshua and God, but with the help of their leader, they're going to come up with a plan, a strategic military plan to ambush Ai. And so, if you are Ai, if you're the people of Ai, and Israel has already tried to come and take your city, and you have already defeated them, you've driven them away, imagine how you might feel or think as Ai, people in Ai. Well, we already defeated them. Let them come again. We have it again a second time or a third time, right? You're probably pretty proud of yourselves, I imagine. Now, I'm sure you're still prepared. You're not overconfident, but you're confident. They already tried once. Perhaps, as a citizen of Ai, you heard about what they did to Jericho, and so here they are at your doorstep, and you drive them away and defeat them, and so you're pretty confident. But this time, they're not just going to take all of Israel's troops into the front gate of Ai. They're going to come up with a military strategy. So let's go to chapter 8, verse 1. Now the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed." Question, does that sound familiar? Of course it does. He has said it over and over all throughout the book, at least in chapter 1. Joshua chapter 1 is the more familiar when God said it over and over. In verse 9, he says, don't be afraid, don't be dismayed, I'm with you wherever you go. And so here God is reassuring Joshua, hey, I've told you once, I've told you 3 times, I'm telling you again. I know a lot has happened. When we go back in our minds to Israel being defeated in Joshua 7, and Joshua, verse 6, tore his clothes, he fell on his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. He's mourning, he's lamenting the defeat. And so now we see Joshua 8, verse 1, God's coming back to Joshua and saying, hey, we took care of the sin in the camp. Joshua, don't be afraid, don't be dismayed. Take all the people of war with you and arise, go up to Ai. See, I have given into your hand the king of Ai, his people, his city, and his land. And so the difference in one chapter, now this is a lot more time, but for us reading it, the difference in chapter 7 and chapter 8 is God. All right? God was not with them in chapter 7, he's with them now in chapter 8. And so as long as God is with them, they will conquer any city that they attempt to do. So, verse 2, and you shall do to Ai and its king as you did to Jericho and its king. Only its spoils and its cattle you shall not take as booty for yourselves. Lay an ambush for the city behind it. And so we already have an introduction or a glimpse into this military strategy. If we can only count the times that militaries or armies throughout different wars, throughout history, have used this strategic ambush, laying in wait, an ambush for an enemy. I mean, time after time after time, I'm sure, and we'll see that here. They're going to have an ambush. They're going to draw out the people of Ai to the front. There's going to be more of Israel's army in the back. And so, verse 3, so Joshua arose, and all the people of war to go up against Ai, and Joshua chose 30,000 mighty men of valor and sent them away by night, so the disguise of darkness. And he commanded them, saying, behold, you shall lie in ambush against the city, behind the city. Do not go very far from the city, but all of you be ready. Be prepared, be ready. Don't be far. If you're too far away, you may not have enough time to enter into the city when Ai leaves. Verse 5, then I and all the people who are with you will approach the city, and it will come about when they come out against us at the first, that we shall flee before them. So this is really God and Joshua describing what's going to happen. We're not reading it actually happening yet. And so Ai, the men, are going to come out just like they did the first time. They're going to reenact the second time running away. So this time it's just a show to draw them further away from the city. And so again, if you're the men of Ai, you're thinking, wow, this is just like the first time, and you're going to chase them, and you're not even thinking about the city. Pretty brilliant strategy here. Verse 7, then you shall rise from the ambush and seize the city, for the Lord your God will deliver it into your hand, and it will be, when you have taken the city, that you shall see the city on fire. So when those that are in front see the fire, according to the commandment of the Lord you shall do. See, I have commanded you. Joshua therefore sent them out, and they went to lie in ambush and stayed between Bethel and Ai, on the west side of Ai. But Joshua lodged that night among the people. Then Joshua rose up early in the morning. Again, every time I read that phrase, I just have to stop and just think about Joshua as a leader and why specifically the Holy Spirit includes, as we, why does he tell us? Joshua consistently and constantly, he rose up early. He has a job to do, a task. He prepares himself. He gets up early in the morning. He musters the people. He went up, he and all the elders of Israel, before the people of Ai, and all the people of war who were with him went up and drew near. Then they came before the city and camped on the north side of Ai. And so you have those that are on the west side. Now you have those that are on the north side. Now a valley lay between them and Ai. So he took about 5,000 men. So you have 30,000, and now you have 5,000, and set them in ambush between Bethel and Ai on the west side of the city. And when they had set the people, all the army that was on the north of the city and its rear guard on the west of the city, Joshua went that night into the midst of the valley. Now it happened when the king of Ai saw it, that the men of the city hurried and rose early and went out against Israel to battle, right? You're confident, you're prepared, you see them coming again, you have it, or at least I'm sure they thought they did. He and all his people at an appointed place before the plain, but he did not know that there was an ambush, kind of the purpose of an ambush, right? Right? If you knew there was an ambush, it wouldn't be an ambush. It's like Jesus said, if you knew the night in which a thief was going to break into your house, you'd be there to meet him. Right? Well, all right. But he did not know that there was an ambush against him behind the city. And Joshua and all Israel made as if they were beaten before them. Again, they're pretending this time. And fled by the way of the wilderness. So all the people who were in Ai, who called together to pursue, were called together to pursue them. And they pursued Joshua and were drawn away from the city. So now you have what? You have a city with women and children, older men. These are men of war that are pursuing Joshua and his army. So really you have the defenseless. No one back in the city to guard it, to protect it, to fight. And so when the rest of Israel, who is encamped and waiting in ambush on the west side, when they come into the city, nothing you can do. Brilliant. And then what's going to happen is when they start burning the city, as they did with Jericho as well, they're going to burn and destroy these cities. When they see the smoke, Joshua is going to turn around, and then Ai is going to see the smoke. But now you have Ai right in the middle of army number 1 and army number 2, and they don't have the walls of a city to protect, to hide in, and they will be utterly destroyed, with the exception, at first, the king of Ai will be taken alive and then hung on a tree to die. And so that's the end result. But here we have it. Verse 18, then the Lord said to Joshua, stretch out the spear that is in your hand toward Ai, for I will give it into your hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that was in his hand towards the city. So those in ambush rose quickly out of their place. They ran as soon as he had stretched out his hand. And so they're watching Joshua for that sign. And they entered the city and took it, and hurried to the city, and hurried to set the city on fire, right? Time is of the essence here. The longer you wait, the further away they're going to drive. Ai is going to drive Israel. So do it quickly. They were not to be far from the city, and then we read that they were to set it on fire quickly. They do so. Everything falls into place. Again, God is with them. And when the men of Ai looked behind them, surprise, they saw, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended to heaven, so they had no power to flee this way or that, meaning they can't go forward, they can't go backward. So what do? Well, you fight, and they will die. And the people who had fled to the wilderness turned back and on the pursuers. Now when Joshua and all Israel saw that the ambush had taken the city, and that the smoke of the city had ascended, they turned back and struck down the men of Ai. Then the others came out of the city against them, so they were caught in the midst of Israel, some on this side and some on that side, and they struck them down, so that they let none of them remain or escape. But the king of Ai they took alive, and they brought him to Joshua. Any thoughts or questions? I'm going to just give a pause right there as we've read everything that's happened. Yes, so they were pagans. All of the inhabitants, so they were idol worshipers, just like Jericho and Ai, and all all the inhabitants of the land. And so this would be a very deep, long, lengthy discussion. Why is God driving and killing all these people? Why is he killing all in Jericho? And Jericho is probably a better example because everyone was destroyed except for Rahab. Well, Rahab, you see her faith, and then she's recorded in Hebrews chapter 11 because of her faith. So as a pagan, growing up worshiping false gods, not knowing or believing or worshiping the God of heaven, she in the moment when the spies enter the city, she exhibits faith in the God of Israel. We've heard about your God. We heard about how y'all crossed the Red Sea. We've heard all these things about your God. And so there's a faith in Rahab. Now, she was a harlot, yes. She lied, yes. So she is not perfect in the moment, but she shows faith, and she was spared because of it. And she will be a proselyte to the Jewish religion. And so, but all these other cities, Jericho and Ai and everyone else in the land, they're all pagans. They're all idol worshipers. They don't worship or believe in Jehovah God, and that's why God is eradicating them from the land and giving it to Israel to inhabit and to possess. Now, they should have had it a long time ago. They should have had it a long time ago, and it was a long time coming that Israel, because of their disbelief in God, Numbers chapter 12, 13 or so, the wilderness wandering, 13 I think, when they went into the land to spy it out, and God had given them the land, and they went in and they saw the giants, and God, because of that, they wandered for 40 years. And so imagine how this land and the population has grown in the land that God has given them, because they should have had it at least 40 years earlier. But yeah, they're all, these are not Jehovah God believing people, and God is just warring with them for no reason. Yeah, great question. I appreciate that thought. So let's just think about for just a moment the king of Ai and what they do to him. And then there's a verse in Deuteronomy 21 that I'd like us to reference as we think about what they do. But before that, let's just think about, so let's drop down to verse 24. And it came to pass, when Israel had made an end of slaying all the inhabitants of Ai in the field, in the wilderness where they pursued them, and when they had all fallen by the edge of the sword until they were consumed, that all the Israelites returned to Ai and struck it with the edge of the sword. And so essentially, when all of the men of war were defeated and killed, they returned and did the same to the city. And that's hard to think. I know. We live in a different time, a different covenant. It's hard to comprehend some of this. I know. And that's a meatier discussion for a time and a place. But verse 25, so it was that all who fell that day, both men and women, were 12,000, and all the people of Ai. I like it when the Bible gives us numbers, right? So there you see it on the screen. I like it when the Bible gives us numbers, and we can picture in our mind numbers and how many people. And so all the city of Ai, it tells us after the men had died and the women had died. It doesn't say children, so I don't know if this is not including children. But both men and women were 12,000. And so when you think about Israel, they had at least 5,000 on one side of Ai, and they had 30,000 that were mentioned. Earlier we read about 30,000. Joshua took 30,000. So you see the comparison here. You see how Israel had about 30,000, 35,000 men of war, and women and children together in Ai were about 12,000. So if you half that, they had 6,000 maybe men of war, and probably not even that many. I imagine it wasn't split evenly. So not a very big city. And so when we go back to Joshua 7 and the confidence of Israel looking at Ai, and they were like, hey, there's not a lot of people there. Well, there really was not a lot of people there. And so, all right. And so then here's the What time is it? I have not even looked at the clock once in class. All right, so we got a couple more minutes. All right, let's get to the end of the chapter, and then I have a few words to say after class, and so I'll get there and say a couple of things. All right, let's think about the king of Ai. Verse 26, for Joshua did not draw back his hand with which he stretched out the spear until he had utterly destroyed all the inhabitants of Ai. Only the livestock and the spoil of that city Israel took as booty for themselves, according to the word of the Lord, which he had commanded Joshua. So Joshua burned Ai and made it a heap forever, a desolation to this day. And the king of Ai, he hanged on a tree until evening. He hanged on a tree until evening. With that thought, I would like to reference Deuteronomy 21:23, Deuteronomy 21:23. There is a purpose and a meaning behind hanging someone on a tree. Even whenever it comes to Jesus Christ hanging on the cross, there is significance. I'm just remembering I didn't turn that TV on, so I don't want to forget. Deuteronomy 21:23. Go back to 22. Can you go back a verse? Deuteronomy, what did I say? 21:22. Deuteronomy 21:22, and then 23. If a man has committed a sin deserving of death, and he is put to death, and you hang him on a tree, okay? Now, it is mentioned a death or a sin that leads to death. Now, they will do this to the king of Ai, not necessarily because he had committed a sin, but he was a pagan. They do kill him. They do hang him on a tree, so that's the significance. His body shall not remain overnight on the tree. Okay, so the text does tell us that, so Joshua burned the city of Ai, and the king of Ai he hanged on the tree until evening, and as soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they take his corpse down from the tree. So that's straight from God. You shall not leave his body overnight, so that you do not defile the land which the Lord your God has given you as an inheritance. For he who is hanged is accursed from God, or of God, rather. And so there is significance there that I would remember in this text. So let's finish our thoughts going down to chapter 9, beginning back up here in verse 30. Joshua is going to renew a covenant here. Verse 30, now Joshua built an altar to the Lord God of Israel in Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the children of Israel, as it is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of whole stones over which, actually, I did not finish, put a pin where we were. Because I did not finish King of Ai, there's something else that happens. And they hung him on a tree, they took him down, his corpse down. They cast it at the entrance of the gate of the city, and they raise over it a heap of stones that remains to this day. So, they put him at the gate of the city that has now been burned and destroyed, corpses all around, and his body at the gate of the city, and it says that they pile great heap of stones over him as a memorial that remains to this day. And so, don't forget those details. All right, verse 32. And there in the presence of the children of Israel, he wrote on the stones of clay of the law of Moses, which he had written. Then all Israel, with their elders and officers and judges, stood on either side of the ark before the priests, the Levites, who bore the ark of who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord. The stranger as well as he who was born among them, half of them were in front of Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded them that they should bless the people of Israel. And afterward he read all the words of the law, the blessings and the cursings, according to all that was written in the book of the law. There was not a word of all that Moses had commanded which Joshua did not read before the assembly of Israel, which the women, the little ones, and the strangers who were living among them. That brings us to chapter 9, and I need to end there. A couple of things to say before we continue, or before we end, rather. The first is this. So I'll be here next Sunday, just to let you know my schedule. I'll be here next Sunday. That's Father's Day. And so my fill-in right here, Greg, I'll be here next Sunday. And so I'll continue with Joshua 9 and perhaps get into Joshua 10, and we'll play it by ear. And then the following Sunday, I plan on being at my parents'. There's an event my parents do every year called Grand Camp, and it's grandparent camp. My parents have 8 grandchildren, and my sons have never been. We did not go last year, and we've never been before. And so we are the only grandchildren that have never been to Grand Camp. And so that is the middle of June. And so on the 22nd, I'll be gone. And so just to let you know that we'll pick up Joshua 9, we'll see if we get into Joshua 10, and then the following Sunday, Greg will pick up where I leave off, and he'll fill in for me. The other thing that I want to say, and I have about 1 minute, is in July, the first Sunday in July, we have 3 adult Bible classes that are offered, okay, 3. And this week you will see signs, and you'll see it in the bulletin, and so you'll see it in the foyer. But if you have the Lightpost app and you use it, which more and more of our members are learning how to use it, if you open it, the very front page, there is the option down here to register for Bible class. And so if you click that button, it will show you all 3 of the classes that will be offered in July, next quarter. You'll see that I'm teaching a class. I'll continue Joshua. Greg Nash is teaching a class. And Jim Pelfrey and David Poskovich are co-teaching a class. You'll see all 3 classes. You can select it, whichever class you plan on attending. That will let us know that you have registered for that class, and we can see numbers. And so we'll keep announcing that. I'm going to announce it until you're tired of hearing it. I'm going to announce that to the point where you're like, every time I say next quarter, you just turn your ears off. Like, I'm not listening again. He's already said that. We just want you to be aware. But thank you for your attention. It's 9:45. I'll dismiss us there. Oh, we got one comment. Yes, sir. Or question. Okay. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, I'll make a note of that. But Jim and David's class will start the second Sunday of July, because both will be gone that Sunday. All right, you're dismissed. Thank you so much.